So do you have a pen?
Well, I got one up.
I got mine.
So just this page, this right, and we should definitely try to get that one done.
Yeah.
Tonight. Everything else, it'd be great, but if we can't, that's okay.
Well, do we wanna, what's gonna happen? I mean, do you wanna go through that or?
If
wanna
we
just
can,
jump to
but
here?
we have until 7:50 before yoga comes.
So.
We don't know how long public comment will take.
All right, well, once we get to like 7:15, might be timers on.
Yeah. Yeah. So.
Yeah, okay, but if they have something on the screen, are we using the TV today?
Yes.
Okay.
So we actually have kind of the date we chose. There's yoga at 8, so we have until 7:50. So we may not get to it, but if we do, then
It's
You
ready.
only have to 7:50 today?
yeah. Because there's the date chosen today was for there's a yoga that predated this. So.
You might be able to.
Well, I think to get everybody this way, it's gonna have to be back.
Actually, yeah. We have a seat here.
He's a big this little bit, everybody up there. No matter where they are.
I know that.
It's on.
This.
Testing the mic. Do I have to turn it on or something?
Yes.
Testing.
Red light's on, we're good.
Okay. I guess I'm sitting here.
7 people up here.
I was gonna say, where am I sitting?
Oh, you can sit anywhere you want. I didn't pre-sign it, so go ahead. Wherever you like.
Because our auditor guy's gonna sit here for
Yeah.
a while too.
Okay.
So I figure,
She's sitting on there.
yeah, pick your pick.
We hope.
I'll sit here just in case something happens to the microphone. I can
Good
check,
idea.
I can check my reflexes.
Yes. Yeah. Oh.
Oh, yeah, sorry.
It works a lot better that way.
It does. I know.
Where's your sign, lady? Is this your sign? Oh, that's all right.
I'll need a pen. So.
There you go.
Is he gonna do it?
Yeah, I know.
We'll see.
So as soon as you can- Okay. Is that- what's the auditor?
Yeah.
Oh, here he is.
Yeah.
Yay.
Awesome. All right. Thanks for coming. So you're right here next to Sophia. The name tag won't be facing you, unfortunately, but
No worries, yeah.
Hi, nice to meet
This is
you.
Jim Craig.
Craig, nice to meet you.
Yeah, again, I was actually left my office too.
I believe it.
I stopped here and I worked out for an hour and a half.
Yeah.
24 hours. It was 3.5, 4 miles. And I was
Yes.
thinking, okay, I can give myself 20 minutes.
Bay Area traffic,
Yeah, I
man.
know.
The difference is startling between, like, as soon as it hits 5, you're not going anywhere.
Yeah.
So, you know, if you can. Okay.
Okay, we're gonna call our meeting to order at
6:31.
6:31. And this is the time for the public to give their comments, if anyone would like to do that. We have no comment to this?
Can we bring up
Did
the?
you sign in?
Can we bring up the speaker list?
Thank you.
I'm first on the list, so I'll just go. So I just bear with me, okay? Mission statement, Rancho Recreation Park District has existed since 1956 to enhance the quality of life for residents and visitors by promoting good health, wellness, and recreation. Core values are sustainability, transparency, and I put a special emphasis on that, and financial responsibility. In light of that, I have a few comments. The minutes as recorded don't really reflect what happened, especially with the public comments. Now, I'm not blaming Kevin because he should be taking the minutes. According to your own policies, the secretary is supposed to be taking the minutes. We're making sure that they're recorded. The secretary recorded in the policy for this year is Mr. Wazlowski. Therefore, he should be taking the minutes or seeing that they're recorded by someone other than Kevin because he's busy answering questions during the meeting. He can't be writing minutes and answering questions at the same time. Common sense. Okay. Things that were talked about in the public comments last time that were not reflected in the minutes were that 2 members do not currently live in the district, that one of them is presenting false information to the Santa Clara County Office of Elections and to the officials of the Santa Clara County Tax Board. One or the other, you can't have it both ways. One board member also uses the pool privately during off hours, which is, of course, a safety hazard to the district. I would like to know, and I know you can't talk to me, were the keys removed from the board members? And if not, who still has keys? Because it's a safety violation to have somebody in the pool alone, and if they've proven to be unreliable, untrustworthy, they shouldn't have the key. Okay, going on. So the website says all these nice things about transparency. On the website, there's also a list of salaries, and nowhere on there does it reflect the salary or the quote fees that the board of directors receives. So in the interest of transparency, I think added to that salary list should be that every board member gets $100 for every meeting they attend. Nobody knows that. That's not transparent. That's hiding the facts. Just like you hid the facts that you all existed for, let's see, since 1994 for Miriam and Steve and Sandy's case. Okay? That's not transparency. That's not having the well-being of the constituents in mind, which is what your stated goals are. Okay, not living up to your goals. Now I'm going to go on to the Special District Leadership Academy. Who's ever heard the term of not throwing good money after bad? Steve and Miriam have both been before. It obviously hasn't worked. So why would we spend money to send them again? Money that could be spent to pay lifeguards $20 an hour to sign up for the adult lap swim in the evening. Why would we do that? It's a boondoggle. No other term for it. Sorry. The Marriott Napa is really nice. I'm sure you'd like to go. But seeing as taxes paid in are very small and you get out $100 a meeting plus a weekend in Napa, it seems like you're kind of making out. The 2 of you, the 3 of you that have been on here a long time. New residents pay a lot more in taxes, have a lot more to say.
Thank you for your 3 minutes.
Thank you.
I'm grateful to Dala for that wonderful techniques. Okay, so as those who are attending the meetings know, this is my 4th time, and I'm here to renew my call for a report by the board about the ways in which they have outreach to the community. How have you informed the community about your existence? How have you included the community in your plans to do something? Have you done something? Have you ever had an open house? When was the last time? 1994. What was it? Several questions like these about the outreach to the community I have asked, and I have received no response. This is beginning to seem like a joke, and basically it's an act of contempt. Giving 3 minutes but never actually acknowledging what was said, not including it in the minutes, not ever responding to it. Kevin very kindly hands out his business cards. What's the point? I already have the email address. I want an answer to the question I've been asking all of you. So please do that. Secondly, there is now a vacancy on the board. Last time I offered a comment about the fact that this board has been so lily-white for so long, in complete contrast to the tech sector, to the nonprofit sector, to the government, to really anywhere looking in the Silicon Valley. There has been a lot more acceptance of the fact, acknowledgement of the fact that the Silicon Valley now actually is a diverse place. Yes, and that definitely is true of Rancho Rinconada. Therefore, I'm saying it's time to make sure that we include a person of color on this board, other than Sophia, who just got in the November elections. Enough is enough. It's embarrassing. It's shameful, both for me and for people on the board currently, that you all been with the board for 25 years, 26 years, and it never struck you that maybe we need to represent the community. And definitely this is, I think, also a part of, this problem is also a result of the fact that you all don't live here. You don't know anybody who you can actually invite to come to the board, which Sandy, for example, did with Sophia. Please hold yourself to some principle. This is embarrassing. And I also second what Sansi said. This is a total boondoggle. You've been on this board for 26 years and you're going to Napa for these conventions or wherever else for these conventions. And what have you done? If there's some good care out of it, I would say you have not learned the fundamental thing apparently, which is that when there are taxpayers, you need to consult them what they want. Governance is to represent the people how they are. You have not learned fundamental lessons. What do I care what you're going to Napa for? Go on your own dime. I don't give a shit. Not on my money. I've been here 20 years. I've never heard from you all, which is what everybody here is saying. We have said so many times. We have not heard from you all. I have asked you, you're not giving me a response. There's absolutely no acknowledgement of principle that some things are being violated, and that needs to stop.
It's going to be hard not to repeat. Renee Henderson, I've been here since 1990. I've owned a property since 1990. So I was glad to see that there is now a policy, though it's quite out of date. But I noticed when you go to these offsites, you're supposed to come back and do a report, and it's recommended that you have not only a policy, but an HR section. And basically, I'm going to be talking about the HR section. I didn't see any job descriptions. I took the time to speak to Kevin. He took the time to speak to me. I asked him for his job description since he is a general manager, and it is the board's responsibility to set the direction, ensure financial and HR accountability, and hold the GM accountable. I don't know how you hold him accountable if you don't have a job description. Maybe you make it up. But as a taxpayer, I would like to know that you have measurable criteria. You should have a job description as part of the HR, period. I'm not allowed to know what his evaluation is. That's fine. You don't have to tell me that. I've managed over 25 years, okay? But you should have measurable criteria, not just Kevin's a hell of a nice guy. I've heard people complain since this has been public, this meeting, that there's not enough swim programs. It's his responsibility and that of the people who work for him, I guess, to, again, I don't have a job description to know whose the responsibility is. Why are they complaining that there's not enough programs? That is a measurable criteria. Profit and loss statements. I assume he's responsible for profit and loss. So measurable criteria for that is increased profitability by 10% year over year. Something like that. I'm making this up, okay? Definitely, though, if people are paying for more swim programs, I shouldn't hear sorry-ass excuses, sorry, about, well, the job is harder than you would think. Excuse me, we're not in kindergarten. You're talking to one of the smartest cities in the country. I shouldn't hear excuses for doing a job, but I don't know what the job entails, okay? More importantly, you should have a consultant suggest what Kevin's pay is so he can learn what the people who work for him, what their pay should be. And yet he is presenting what his pay should be. And he's suggesting that the cost of living index is 4.6% or 3%. He's already gotten a pay raise as far as I can see online. And so since, let me see, whatever he's done, that's a wonderful job. He got a 9.5 increase from 2017 to 2018 and a 5% increase from 2018 to 2019. Since 2016, he's had a 20.5 increase in pay, much more than the cumulative 3% cost of living, okay? Most importantly, though, when he presents to you what his pay should be, by the way, when you call me that on Marion, I read your policy. Policy 503041 says I get 5 minutes, and I'm going to stick to that since you haven't amended the policy.
I
Okay,
get two more.
I get two more.
so, I'm sorry you didn't amend the policy.
Brent's not here tonight.
So, the pay range that he is suggesting from the, I forget the name of the book that he uses, which is fine that he uses it, is based on merit. He shouldn't be saying, I want to get this much over time, which he is proposing, or I'm doing the median income. Why should he be the median? Why shouldn't he be the low? He says he throws out the outliers. How do we know he threw out the outliers? We don't know that. Hopefully you know that. Your job is to vet him financially, and I don't see that. I don't see that because he is suggesting that he gets this raise based on what criteria, I don't know, but I should know.
I don't know.
I don't know what his evaluation is, and it's none of my business. But I should know that he is being measured. And in the December meeting, 2 of your members, board members, said they went to other cities to find out comparable jobs. So that district bandwidth that he shows is based on different job descriptions. Again, he didn't provide me his job description. Okay, I met with him in good faith, he met with me in good faith. It's not about Kevin. It's about, is our money being wasted? Okay, and you're getting more than 3% a year. So I don't know if everybody knows. That's it. Thank you.
Okay.
If there's no one else, I'll take my 2 minutes that I'm owed. Thank you. So back to the special district conference boondoggle 3-night, 4-day vacation. All expenses paid, mileage, food, $25 for dinner, $15 for lunch, $10 for breakfast. I read all the stuff in your procedure.
I didn't even know.
I would suggest that if you guys have any ethics at all, you have Kevin and the council go. Because it's not done you guys any good. And I have not heard one time any of you say, we're really sorry, public, that you're really upset with us. We're really sorry that we haven't done our job. We're really sorry that we've hidden ourselves from you. I've never heard that. You guys are proudly breaking all the rules of basic humanity and niceness. No other word to say. I don't know you, but I know what you have presented to us. The taxpayer that pay way more than you do on your houses that you've owned since 70-something. I looked up, Steve pays $36 for his 4.61% of his 1% basic valuation, but he gets $100 a meeting and free use of the pool whenever he wants alone, plus a 3-night, 4-day vacation in Napa. So let's think about that when we vote, board, shall we? I really think it would be smarter to send Kevin and the council.
Kevin has already, I think, gone to this leadership.
If
They
you're not gonna
all go
again,
together. They go
but
together.
They've gone before, so why should they go again? It hasn't done any good.
I've never been to a
And there's another
conference.
conference here during this year. You wouldn't have to pay for anything.
Yeah.
Just go here. One last thing, Jordan Eldridge, who actually was in high school with Kevin, and I'm not suggesting you knew each other, you could have, I don't know. This was on the website, that he wants to be paid $20,000 to rewrite the procedure. Have you gotten any other bids? Did you look for any other bids? You don't just pay somebody $20,000 to do something that you haven't gotten other bids on. Common sense. Thank you for your non-apology.
I'll take maybe not all 2 minutes, just want to second many things that Nancy has mentioned, which is, I thought no bid contacts are a bad word, at least since the Bush administration. Are we still doing that in the Rancho district? No bid contacts are a no-go. We should not do that as taxpayers. At least if you don't understand it, we demand that you cannot just award somebody who apparently was part of the board before. So maybe he's a buddy of yours, maybe he's not. Either way, you cannot just give to one person who you already know was a board member. You have to get several bids. Number 2, you folks, especially you, Steve and Miriam, you really need to acknowledge what is being said here has been said at least in the last 4 months that I've been attending the meetings.
It's 3 of them that have been on there since the 90s.
No, but at least I see Sandy making some efforts to accountability. I have not heard any acknowledgement of the comments, of the anger, of the frustration, of the disappointment that taxpayers are expressing again and again and again at every single meeting. It's all on video. I have not heard any acknowledgement of you, and more importantly, no action has been taken on any of the things that have been pointed out, including to change the SPIL program. This meeting, when it was talked about at the last meeting as a special meeting, was, apparently going to include time when board members would actually respond to questions. Because so far, I feel like Robert's Rules of Order has been thrown at the audience to say, we can't actually respond to you. You're welcome to take you 3 minutes or whatever and talk, but hey, you're not required to respond. And boy, we will not. And that's exactly what you have done. The point of the special meeting, I thought, was that at one meeting, this will be not a regular meeting, where you can actually respond to people, the questions we are all raising. And I see that this meeting is about something else altogether. So that's very disappointing. Well, I just second all the research that Nancy has done. $36, I think I'm paying way more. Why somebody who's in the board 26 years paying $36 after also misrepresenting where they live in order to be on the board? I thought that's illegal and should be actionable by some kind of authority somewhere.
Thank you.
Please don't thank me. Do something with what I'm saying.
Does anybody else want to speak?
So,
We got one
Somebody-
more speaker.
okay, did you sign the list?
I didn't sign.
Did
Do I
you-
need to sign?
Yes,
Yeah.
you did sign it.
Please.
Sure. Okay.
5 minutes.
My name's Eric. I've been in the district for a little over 20 years. I used to come to the pool when my kids were younger a little bit, but not very often. Just a comment about process. I couldn't find an agenda for tonight's meeting from the website. Maybe I missed it, but
It's here.
okay, I missed it. I couldn't find it at the Rancho website. So if it's there, that's good. And I understand why you won't just deal with stuff that people bring up from the oral communications, because you want to stick to the agenda. That's a good process. Because if someone brings up something that is not on the agenda and I'm interested in it, and you go ahead and discuss that and make decisions on it, then I'm not there for it. So to stick to the agenda, I think is a good idea. But I don't know, I couldn't find it, so that's all. Thank you.
What's your name?
Just ask her name.
Can you add your name or what's your name?
Oh, you don't
Oh.
remember me from last time,
No,
I guess? Okay.
Difference does it make?
Well, what
I
difference
mean,
does this make? Okay, anyway. Sorry, I worked 10 hours today. Just got here late. I'm looking at the agenda now and where is the plan to talk about adding lap swim hours?
that's for next meeting.
We're not gonna talk about it now?
No.
Why?
Because it's a special meeting, so we can do the audit and a couple other things. It was explained in the last meeting.
But at the last meeting, you said it was gonna be audit, salary schedules,
Yes.
and filling the
Curtains.
vacancy, not Boondoggle to Napa
So
and the other one.
we actually have until 7:50, so there's just not a lot of, we may not even get to some.
You shouldn't have added anything to the agenda other than the things that you said last time.
Okay, and then also I wanted to bring up, how you guys post minutes. So how do you post minutes online? Because I don't think it was a very accurate representation of what people talked about. Isn't that the point of meeting minutes?
That's because he does the minutes.
So I
But
don't,
he's not supposed to do the
I mean,
minutes, Steve.
these are basic, these are pretty basic, meeting minutes should be pretty much similar to verbatim what is said, right?
At least clear points.
So you need to pretty much write down what people say. It should be honest of what went on. These are basic, that's all I wanted to say.
Can I address
Why is
something?
Kevin taking
It's
the
kind
minutes?
of
Can we know?
upsetting,
Why isn't Steve taking the minutes? Steve, can you not write?
It's on the agenda. They
Sorry.
can't talk to us.
Can you not write?
You can write in front of
You
them.
can't write while you stand. Oh, I know. It's just interesting.
Can I say something, please?
It's actually
Yeah, I want to
breaking
say
policy
something,
rules
Mary.
to have you taking the minutes, Kevin. I would stop right now if I were you. Policy states that he's taking the minutes. You're breaking the rules.
All right, the board has directed me to do this, so. I do have
What?
to do this. The board has directed me to do this, so I do have to do
But
it.
that's not in the policy. So technically, you're not supposed to be doing something that's not in the policy that's breaking a policy rule.
There's just not enough
I
separation.
think you should stop taking minutes till you talk to your attorney.
There's not enough separation between management and board also.
Actually, you're not supposed to do anything at the behest of the board without them all
Thank
voting
you
on
for
it.
your 3 minutes. We'd like to progress
Well,
with
you've
that.
had 26
Are
years.
there anyone else would like to say something?
I asked to say something first. I have been the lone no vote on this board forever. And I have been shouted down, I have been interrupted, and I have been ignored. And that's why I came to the public to get this all out in the open and had Sophie run for the empty seat. And if you're one person against 4, you can only do so much. And I want to say I've never been on a conference and I have never used money from the public for anything for myself. And that's all I want to say.
We appreciate that.
Thank you.
For you. Thank you.
Yep, thank you.
And I'm sorry that you've suffered insults and so forth the last 3 months that you've been here.
That's
So,
in the policy,
I can
too, actually.
apologize
They're supposed to be
for
nice
them.
to each other. It's written in the policy, they're breaking that rule.
And to me.
So, but do we expect this time minutes of meeting actually represent what public is saying, or it's the same thing happen again and again? I mean, somebody has to answer, right? The public come and say something, but you don't put that in minutes of meeting. So what is the point for public to come and say something if you don't want to take any action?
The point is they're hoping we just get tired and go away.
And then,
Go away. That's what they want.
So we're going to move on now. Thank you. Can you open for the audit?
Sure, I can. I'm happy to do that. So I'm not sure how you guys want to do it exactly. Usually I present to the board. But I can present to anyone and take questions. So my name is Craig Fector. I'm the owner of Fector Company CPAs. Thanks for having me down. I kind of made Kevin sweat a bit because I'm not used to San Jose traffic. I was like 3 miles away with 30 minutes to go, thinking I had plenty of time, but I wasn't quite. I made him sweat a bit getting up here, but because I knew you scheduled the meeting, so
I actually had questions. I
Oh,
don't
yeah,
know
of
what to
course.
do now.
Yeah.
So there was a post in Nextdoor. Steve said that you guys follow the GASPE standard.
GASB, yes.
No, but it was Government Accounting Standard for Public Entities.
Correct.
That was a typo.
But it happened 5 or 6 times.
Once.
No.
No, it was on there.
It was
One
actually,
posting. I only
no,
made it
you
right,
made one posting,
and
but
then
it
you
was,
corrected me and I realized, oh, she's right.
so I can post that again, but you said it multiple times with the acronym and it said Government Accounting Standard for Public Entities. I've never heard of that. I actually, you mentioned in your post that it was after the Bell, California scandal that was implemented.
My recollection.
No, the Government Accounting Standards Board has been around for decades.
No,
the
I'm saying
board itself is the
GASPE,
new rule.
GASPE. Have you ever heard of that?
I have not.
Okay.
It doesn't exist. So
It does not exist, but you put that on Nextdoor.
I thought I was writing GASB.
But
I
you
missed
put it multiple times. I'll highlight
on that
it.
one post, yeah.
I can highlight it.
Maybe Sophie should.
I'm sure I was consistent in making my error.
I
So-
think you phonetically used a B and thought PE because you never actually looked at it.
Does this have any relevance on the
So,
audit itself? I mean,
Well, I
I'd like to
know. I
present the
have
audit, so
a
I mean, we can split
question.
hairs about terminology.
Yeah.
differences, but-
I just wanted to ask that because I
Yeah.
had never heard of it
Yeah.
and I asked a few people. But one question I had is, Kevin had mentioned that on the, there was deferred income.
Mhm.
And I don't remember the exact amount. I think it was 122,599. I don't have it
Correct.
exactly.
It was around that, yeah.
Right. And I had a question about that.
Sure.
How exactly is that recorded? And
So they collect revenues in advance, and so basically you guys offer your swim, you offer swimming programs.
Right.
And when people pay it ahead of time, basically the goal under GAAP is to match your revenues earned with your expenses incurred. So if someone pays for a class, someone pays for a rental ahead of time, you're not actually incurring the expenses to earn that revenues until a future
Right.
period. So it's not recorded as like a revenue. It's recorded as a deferred revenue or like a deposit or to show that you collected cash up front to match against revenues in the future
so wouldn't
or
that
expenses in the future.
wouldn't that show up in the balance sheet?
It does.
I
Yeah.
did not see that.
It's under deferred revenue on page 9.
Right, but I did not.
122,999.
Right, but I did
Prior
not-
It was 124,640.
I did not see that though when he printed out the income statement and gave out the financial report. When we had the meeting, I think it was either back in October or November. So I thought,
Well, that
there was-
balance is going to vary fairly dramatically month to month because when the audit's presented, like it's really your busiest time of the year. So really the largest balance of deferred is going to be probably late spring, early summer. That's going to kind
Right.
of taper off as like the programs start to cool down a bit for the, for the fall and whatnot. So I wouldn't be surprised. My experience with small organizations is that the vast majority are really maintained on a cash basis, on a month-to-month basis anyway. I mean, I'd be much more concerned about taking a look at a 3 to 5 year revenue comparison than really what's too trouble on what's on the balance sheet. Really, because
But the thing that
I
kind
have
of concerned
probably-
me was the fact that on the balance sheet, it did not have, if it was deferred income, it kind of bothered me
Yeah.
that wasn't on the balance sheet. And it was
Sure.
So I wanted to ask you that.
And that's that's a good question. I'd say for the vast majority of our clients, maybe half of our smaller clients with budgets less than $5 million, they don't do full accrual sets of statements on a month-to-month basis. It's really like, we'll cut them off at the end of the year. I'm fairly certain you guys record deferreds month to month, right?
For some things, yeah, and then some things we wait till the end of the year and then we.
Yeah, and that's a fairly common occurrence. Like I'd say nearly every park district client that we have does it that way. Now you guys are different because your deferred revenue balances are larger. But if I was management, or I was on the board, or I was the public, and I wanted to just get a general sense of your financial condition, I honestly wouldn't care too much month to month if it was deferred or was reported as revenue, as long as it was correct for auditing purposes into the year.
Okay.
Now again, they are the board's financial statements. You guys can direct management to do like whatever you feel to be accurate or whatever you want. Like it doesn't, again, they're your financial statements in the end. The board has to decide what you want. Just my experience with smaller entities that if you mess too much with the accounting, you're going to end up causing more problems in the end. So, I mean, it's up to you.
And then another question too that I had, I was just wondering, what was your opinion on this being a cash-only business and not taking credit cards?
I wasn't aware you guys didn't take credit cards. I'd say every client we have, every park district that we have takes credit cards.
Okay.
So like,
yeah, this is cash-only basis.
That's how it is at Fremont Pool too.
what's the
Even
activity
concession
tracking
stand at
system
the
you
high
guys
school
use?
takes credit cards.
To track classes and whatnot.
It'd be a-
What do you guys use?
Google Docs.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Where once, where up.
So I have certain park district clients, but it's a little bit different because they have like multiple parks, multiple locations, and a bunch of different programs. So they have like ActiveNet is one,
Yeah.
where they track all the incoming. They actually take credit card payments through ActiveNet.
They charge about 5%.
Yeah, it's
But
a fairly,
you can actually you can pass it on because it's a government. And I actually looked that up.
Yeah, you looked something up.
I did.
didn't
I
you?
did
She
look
looked
it
it
up.
up.
Is this
wasn't
the only
South
one of your clients that actually is still cash only?
yeah.
Okay.
I wasn't aware it was cash only, but yeah.
Yes,
I'd
it
say
is.
every park district client we have accepts credit cards on some level.
Okay.
Yeah.
And those are my questions for now.
Okay.
Thank you very much
Those
for
are good
answering
questions,
those.
yeah.
Thank you.
Great questions. So, thanks for having me. I guess we could walk through usually what we do is walk through each section of the report, and then you guys can kind of take a look, and if you have questions, you can stop me, and we can kind of discuss, what we're looking at exactly. The first 2 pages of the report are pages 1 and 2 is our independent auditor's report. And basically what we say here, the opinion we issue is a clean opinion as of the end of the year. And it's called an unqualified opinion. What that means is we believe the attached statements are fairly presented in accordance with GAAP, generally accepted accounting principles. So that's pretty much all you're going to see out of pages 1 and 2. Nothing terribly important there. Pages 3 through 8, that's our management's discussion and analysis. Kevin and Sunny put quite a bit of time into this, and thank you guys for doing that. Just discusses the district, makes a comparison current year to prior year, allows you to talk about any major projects, kind of up to the board of management exactly what you want to put into this.
So for these things, did they give you an actual physical copy of all the documents, or they did give it to you electronically?
How so? Like as far as the audit goes?
Yeah, in terms of all of their documentation, their financial statements, their credit card statements, to make sure everything matches up.
I mean, we have them pull stuff here. We don't like having stuff scanned and sent over as much as we can avoid. So we spend 2 days of field work. That way we can. It's probably easier on management. That way you're not Because if you had to scan everything, that would just be super annoying, I think.
I think she's asking whether you get, you independently verify the bank statements from the bank itself, so
Oh,
that
yeah.
management cannot.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And yeah, and I'll get to that. in a second,
Okay.
If you don't mind tabling that.
And I actually would like to see those documents too at some point.
Like bank statements?
Bank statements, all the financials.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay.
I don't know if I would contact you because you were the one who did the audit, or if I would contact Kevin because Kevin's the general manager about that.
I would start with your internal resources. I mean, I can give you whatever we have. I'm not.
Okay.
Yeah, it's all public information. So I
Right.
really, yeah,
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
no problem. So as far as the financial statements themselves, there's two different sets of financial statements. Again, we talked about GASB briefly. There's a statement issue called GASB 34. So we actually issued two separate sets of financials. We have our full accrual set of financial statements and we have our modified accrual set of statements.
And that's the hybrid system, correct?
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah. So the full accrual is on pages 9 and 10. And what that does is basically just capitalize fixed assets. And page 11 is our modified cash basis balance sheet, which basically is the same exact balance sheet without capital assets. So if you had long-term debt, it would show up on page 9, but the district has no debt. So again, we don't take the information at face value. So we don't just take reports from management and accept it and report it as such. We do separate procedures to verify accuracy. So in regards to cash, we do send confirmations to the bank to verify the information that they're providing to us is accurate and matches up to bank statements and whatnot. Fixed assets, the stuff in the past we don't pay a whole lot of attention to. For current year additions, this year they're relatively nominal. I think there was just $32,000 worth of additions, but we do take a look at invoices. We take a look at canceled checks, physically inspect fixed asset additions as well. We do conduct cutoff testing at the end of the year to verify accuracy of the liabilities. Again, we don't expect too much there beyond just the normal operating expenses that are run for a month or two. So
Under current liabilities, there's like a couple more $1,000 this year than there was last year.
yeah,
So
that's, I mean,
it's that about,
overall, that's an increase of less than 1%. I mean,
I just don't know what the liabilities are. That's
yeah,
what I'm-
the largest liability is really your advanced payments on classes of $123,000 at the end of the year. That's the largest liability. Beyond that, you have some accrued compensation due as of the end of the year, just some accounts payable and security deposits. So again, for your classes over the summer, people prepay, and then because it's a prepayment, it's recorded as deferred revenue. You don't recognize it yet because you match your revenues to your expenses. Revenues earned to the expenses incurred.
So quick question, why do we have accrued compensation? Are they not getting salary on time? What kind of compensation they accrue?
I don't have the detail to that right now. It's probably two different components. There's probably an accrued vacation component and also accrued salary. So you have like the last 2 weeks of the year that usually run after the end of the fiscal year.
Okay. So most maybe the vacations.
Pardon me?
Mostly maybe the vacations.
I mean, I don't have a breakdown right now, but
Has to be paid on time, right? So.
well, yeah, it's paid on. Well, again, usually what happens a lot is the pay period is from the 16th to the 30th. It's not paid until like the 5th or something, so you accrue it as the end of the year and show it as liability because it's for services performed in the prior year. So we do a number of tests, to verify accuracy. We do. If someone brought up the city of Bell, I mean, that always is something we want to keep in mind, like what happens to small entities, and there's natural, risk of misstatement because you have a manager in very close proximity to the bookkeeper, right? So we always test compensation with the general manager, take a look at his W-2, schedule out the payments in the GL, and compare to the contract to verify that the payments that went to the GM didn't exceed his contractual agreed upon amount. It's probably the most awkward conversation we'll have. Never got it because we're auditing the GM, but it's just part of what we do.
So it's only the GM. You don't do any other, because this is a small entity and they're.
I mean, so we do. That's a good question. It kind of depends on a year-to-year basis how much risk we feel is there. We do normally do other payroll tests. We look at like timesheets and we do recalculations and whatnot. But in a smaller entity, I like the largest area of potential misappropriation is really for the GM.
Okay.
So we always audit the GM's contract.
Okay.
So it wouldn't be a good idea to play the stock market with public funds, right?
Yeah, I wouldn't. Well, I wouldn't recommend doing that, yes.
Okay, that's what, that went on here at one time.
Yeah.
2 members were playing the stock market with public money, and they were making money for the facility, I guess.
Well, they can
From
do
what
it. There's actually,
But how do we know they weren't playing the stock market for their own benefit as well at the same time?
yeah. Well, there's actually state laws that stipulate what you can or can't invest in.
Yeah, now
So
there
you
is.
can put it in mutual funds.
That's what they were, mutual funds.
Yeah,
They were
different types.
T. Rowe Price and Fidelity.
yeah, there's certain things you can't invest in, like derivatives, I think is against state law, but
Yeah.
if you just took some money out and put it in an investment fund, it's not against state law.
But it was stopped after something happened. And
Yeah.
I don't know what it was, but it stopped.
It is a concern for us in terms of controls because it is money that's held on the outside. So we
Right.
always would ask about like
Right.
transfer controls to make sure that like one person couldn't just empty the account and abscond with
In
it.
a place like this, there's a lot of room for things that run under the radar as far as money. And that's always concerning me.
I mean, in smaller entities, it's different from mid-sized entities. Smaller entities, you know, you have the board that has to be on top of
Yeah, but
managing
they're not,
finances.
but they're not. We're not.
One
As a
member
board, we
wasn't,
have not
but
been
the
on
rest
top
were.
of things.
Yeah.
We have not been on top of
We've always
things.
been on top.
But
No,
you guys
no.
are keeping.
Because you wouldn't be going on
around all the
vacations
time.
if you were on
It's
top
not
of
I
like
think
things.
there's a lot hidden here.
At 5-star hotels.
Yeah, I think.
Are we letting-
Let's
let him go on.
Okay.
I'd be surprised if things were hidden. I mean, it's just smaller entities. My experience is such that like there's just not a lot of activity. So like if management provides the board with like monthly financial statements, a balance sheet, a profit and loss statement, the board should ask and hold management accountable and say,
Right.
why did this account increase from the prior year? And
That's
then
what-
management should gauge, or the board should gauge management's answers for any inconsistencies and then decide whether or not, again, and that's why it's small. So I used to, this is maybe, I used to be on a finance committee for one of the largest school districts in Sacramento. We didn't do that, right? We just kind of got this big picture financial overview of, you know, here's where we are for the year. Here's what we spent. Here's our budget. And that was kind of that. At a smaller entity, the board really plays a crucial part of overall managing your financial controls. So the board every month should get like a checklisting, right? The board should get a profit and loss statement that compares to the prior
We
year.
do
The
that.
board
though.
should get a balance sheet, and the board should ask questions of management.
Right.
Because then management has to
Yeah.
put forth answers in a public
Yeah.
meeting about, you know, why did our repairs expense double from the prior year? Why is our salary expense up by $20,000? So that's really what one
And you
of
know
the
what the
major
answer to
functions.
that is? Is because they say so.
So one of the
They
problems,
have total control over. If he asked for $10,000 or $30,000 a year raise, they would give it to him, and there's nothing you can do about that. Whether it's right or wrong or moral or immoral, you can't do anything about a board majority, which one of them is missing now because they resigned. You can't. I have no control over that. If I say no, they don't care
Actually,
what
you
I
do
think.
have control because you're
okay.
a board member making the decision with us.
I
So,
know.
And it's
Yeah,
your
but I mean,
So I got a
please,
question
well,
for you.
I vote
And you have
no.
I've
spoken-
noticed
you have
that
spoken up.
I
we will
vote
get
no.
profit and loss
When I
statements,
vote no, I
and but we
vote
won't.
Let's let them talk, thank you.
So
No, you're not.
No, I am.
I'm going to go to the audience first, and then
Because I have a question, so I don't think that the public is concerned about substantive testing.
Mhm.
Like, you guys are gonna test that anyway.
Mhm.
I think what we're more concerned about is testing on internal controls. And there's issues with those kinds of tests.
So what specific issues do you have in internal controls? Like what's not
Se-
functioning properly?
Segregation of powers issues, approval issues, and then timesheets, or timesheets. And something that the public's worried about is that we never get to use the lap swim hours because
Mhm.
there aren't any available because there's a private school using the pool, and they're
Mhm.
keeping the profits.
Well, that's more of an
from that.
operational issue. From a
Right.
control perspective, we didn't have any findings with regards to approvals, and we didn't have any findings we test 30 to 35 disbursements every year.
That's just.
And we just didn't have
I'm
any-
talking about internal control testing,
Yeah.
so it wouldn't be substantive testing.
Yeah, and that's, I mean, that kind of goes to oversight, like what the board does as far as oversight is a major part of internal control of a small organization, because like if you start hiring, you're never going to properly segregate duties as a small entity. It just doesn't happen. Like you're going to have
Well, you can
someone.
at least try,
Well, I mean, again, so it just doesn't, at smaller entities, in my experience, it just can't happen. Like, you're going to have someone who's responsible for record keeping and for collection. It's just going to happen. You say, I mean, you'd have to have like 4 different accountants or bookkeepers here handling money and delegating things out. It's just not going to happen because
Okay.
financially it doesn't work.
How about timesheets? That's pretty basic.
Timesheets, yeah.
Timesheets.
And do you segregate what hours you spend working on Rancho Pool and then working on
Are
the
you,
private school?
those are not part of the hours,
Do you
so.
count the hours he spends in the office doing cool school
For
jobs as opposed
for the
to
Oasis Swim
management?
School like that?
Because he was in here at
It's-
10 when
it's
we left.
Are we
relevant
talking
to-
about the audits?
Yeah, we don't audit performance. We don't audit job
So
performance.
basically
nor
what
do
you're
we-
saying is you can audit, but there's not
Those are
financial
internal
dishonesty, but you can't.
No,
make
we
sure
don't-
they're warm.
Well, no, we don't audit operational items. We just don't do it. We can't. We're only here for 2 days.
But you should be doing internal control tests.
I mean, we do internal control tests. We audit timesheets, we audit the disbursements, we inquire about the type of reports the board gets. We have no specific findings to report.
Can you summarize the timesheets of management, program manager? and
Can you put
members
it in that
office
it's cash
manager,
only,
please?
because that's a major.
I mean, again, that's the
That
district
should
policy.
go
I
in.
don't tell the district how it needs to run its operation. I'm not going to tell you, you have to collect credit, use credit.
That would be the attorney's job.
That's just not going to happen. Yeah, that's not what a financial statement audit accomplishes.
But it's good to know like the time sheet wise, who's spending how many hours.
I know
Yeah.
that the audit firms can make recommendations to management.
Oh, yeah, we can.
Can
It's just,
we do that?
but I stay away from operational recommendations like you need to accept credit cards. It's
Because they
just-
told you to?
No, they didn't tell me anything.
I mean.
I honestly, you guys need to be less combative. I am not combative. I'm here to audit the financial statements,
Yeah.
to verify accuracy of the numbers. I'm not here to give an operational audit. If you want to hire a separate auditing firm or a separate firm, a consulting firm to do an operational examination, you guys should do that.
It's a financial statement audit. That includes internal control risks.
Yeah, well, internal control was, yes, but we did audit internal controls. We audited controls over cash, we audited controls over disbursements, controls over payroll, we audited the board controls over the financial statements. I cannot audit what Kevin does on a day-to-day basis. It's just not what I do.
I don't think
But
that's.
not what we do.
segregation of duties is a pretty basic thing to look into.
Yeah, I mean, again, it's smaller entities, like you're just never going to achieve a perfect segregation of
But you can
duties.
try. We're not looking for perfect here.
I mean, just from my experience, we audit probably a dozen entities the size of Rancho or smaller, and you're just never going to have this perfect segregation of duties. It's just not going to happen. Oversight is really your number one tool, or financial monitoring is really your number one tool to oversee
I
management.
understand, but a lot of these issues, we believe should be investigated more and they should be put in a financial statement audit report. I used to be an auditor, so kind of
I
know
disagree.
how it works.
I disagree.
Can I ask a question?
Sure.
I want to recognize Steve.
Yeah.
I've been waiting.
Can
on
answer-
He hasn't said a thing all night.
Miriam, this
To
is
answer
not
your
good, right?
question,
She has been
we
raising her
have-
hand for a while. I mean, you cannot just give the preference to a board member.
He hasn't said
To
anything all night.
answer
She
your
hasn't.
question about internal controls, based on previous audits, most of which find something they want us to change, we have made those changes. The persons who sign checks and review checks are not the people who pay the bills or make the checks. That's one of the controls we instituted many years ago, so far, 25 or so. I mean, it's been that way as long as I've been here. The other
That's just
things,
one point.
and
of
he's
approval.
right, in a small organization with only a limited number of employees, we can't implement the kind of controls that take 4 different bookkeepers in a unit to do. But we do have checks and balances on everything from petty cash to checks themselves and paying bills, and everything's reviewed and everything's open for the public.
No,
That
I'm
wasn't-
going to
yes,
stop
it's
now. Thank you,
addressing the
Miriam.
things.
So what's not obvious is, I believe Kevin has a $3,000, is it a month or per line
Per
item?
line item.
A line item that's not transparent, either to you, that you don't question, it says right in your policy, you don't question it, and we don't see it. Number two,
we do have to approve
excuse me,
that
you don't
every
need an
month.
answer. We don't, okay? And since I've been coming to this meeting, since we first heard about it, we noticed there's a legal presence, that she gets $225 an hour. How many hours does she spend coaching Kevin and other people? We don't see line items on that. I don't know if it's part of his $3,000 line item or what. So I don't know, I'm bringing this up as audit, and Mr. Fetcher, I respect what you're saying, and I actually agree with it, but I'm not an expert in that field. But I understand it's not your responsibility, but do you get to see what he spends his $3,000
I mean, we can look at
item
anything.
on?
I mean, we can look at any expenditure, yeah. I'm not familiar with what exactly this $3,000 line item is, you know?
It's something that Steve made a motion for, and somebody seconded it and they all
So
voted.
is it
for
part of
it.
the profit?
That's what it
Add to the
is.
policy,
So what I'm asking is the $3,000 part of the profit loss statement and the financial statements? Are all those,
It's a
are
bill,
all
so it
the,
should be.
are all the legal hours that the lawyer gets at $225 an hour, are those accrued just like a timesheet? You know, those are
She
things I
bills,
wanna
she
know.
bills like any outside contractor would
I
bill.
understand she does, but do we see that on the,
It-
and we
it's-
have oversight.
It's on the monthly,
Yeah,
he can probably answer it better than I can.
okay, that's fine.
So yes, all of the expenses go on the monthly check list, the ledger that's every month. This is a special meeting, so there is none on this meeting. But in January and February, you'll see it. It has all the checks with all of the expenses and a brief memo about what that's for.
Those are very brief memos, though.
They are, and
Yeah.
the board has and can continue to ask and inquire about what each particular one is. In addition, during the check signing portion of the, because the board has to pay for all of these bills, all of the invoices are there for
Okay.
board review during signing.
That's great, you're doing your job, are
They
you
should
guys
probably
doing?
be listed.
So it sounds like you're doing your job, I'm asking the board, are you doing your job for vetting what he presents?
So I
Okay,
sometimes
can
don't
I
even
ask one
see,
question?
let me just finish and then you
Okay,
can
sure.
talk. So I just want to say that they will sign checks, even though I'm on the board and I'm a recent board member, sometimes I do not see the things that they sign. So things could be signed by a board member. This has been my experience.
But
And
you can anytime you want to. In fact, I signed them in front of you tonight at the table right out there.
right, you did.
Yeah,
And
And
I
you had a
acknowledge
question
that.
about one, I
Right.
said, sure, take a look.
But
at it.
I'm just saying that it's not, I've never had someone just, it's
You
not
were
as
sending it in front of
open.
her and not them two.
Right, yeah. So
I mean, that's
that,
pretty common. Like, what I've seen is like, you'll have like a board member who like signs all the checks and like
That would
usually
be
like
Steve.
a, like
Yeah,
a
this
check
month it's-
listing.
it's
Like,
Sandy.
like you guys are a smaller
Month.
entity, so like you really should be getting a check run month to month, where the board sees, here's the 30 checks that were written this month. And the board can say,
That's what I'm talking about.
I want to see the
Right.
$2,000 check to the attorney. I want to see the
That's what I'm talking
$1,000
about.
check to Home
Yeah.
Depot or whatever. Like the board should get that.
right.
Like it's fairly common that like only one board member would sign the checks. Now, whether or not that's an effective control depends on the board member doing the signing, because the board member should be asking intelligent questions about things they're not sure about, like,
And
I think we need, like,
do that on a
accounting and
month-to-month
finance training.
basis. This month it's Sandra, last month. it
Well,
was
you know
me.
what? I mean, we actually offer like a 3-hour class to our
Mhm.
clients and boards. If you guys, the board has interest, like we
You
offer,
can
we have
send
like a,
information, that'd be awesome.
yeah, I'll send it to
Yeah.
Kevin.
Yeah.
Okay.
We have like a 3-hour class specific to small special districts,
Maybe it's better to go there than going to.
Covering-
the mission.
covering internal controls and covering finance, and covering
So it's a
budgeting.
finance budgeting.
Well,
class.
well, there was a internal control guidebook that was actually put out about 4 years ago by the state of California. We kind of base it in that, but we can tailor make it to whatever you guys want it to be. And that's no additional charge to the district either. We do it for all of our clients, but it has to be just in May or June.
Okay.
or several months.
I got a question and then I know you need to talk. I had a question for you, Kevin. You mentioned a couple meetings ago that I guess someone named Maya enters the information
I'm sorry?
or
For what?
enters the information, the financial information, someone named Maya or something
Someone
like?
named Sunny.
No, Sunny, but I thought there was also somebody else that,
That was Jay's predecessor as program manager.
okay,
Completely separate.
okay, all right. I was confused. Okay, never mind.
Yeah, but it's not a very good audit, but a general question for Kevin and, this is the first time I'm coming, but I did listen to a couple of my previous meetings, right, to what you guys put it on the YouTube. How come, Kevin, whenever you say only Miriam and Steve know the answer, not the Sandy and Sophie, how come, do you guys meet separately or what is the, how does they know all the answer for everything what you say, not the other two board members?
That's a good
They
question.
choose
Yeah.
not to
No,
participate.
I'm happy to.
I,
she is
not-
we
You
can't, I
can't-
nominated
Yes.
Sophie
You
for
can't- you
president
can't see-
already.
You can't
3
see that I have
times.
not chosen to participate.
3
I've been,
times,
It's not for the
and they would
participation.
not second it.
It's
They
for the
would not.
participation.
They would not, they don't want her to be president, and she should be. She got the
She's
most
only one asking
election.
intelligent questions.
and it's her
down
turn.
below. Rest of you are sitting there.
Those type of comments just really aren't conducive
I'm
for a
sorry,
productive
but you haven't been
discussion.
here for the last few meetings. seen
Yeah, but
what
either
you're
way,
trying to
I
do.
just wouldn't talk that way in a public meeting to people.
You should see how they act.
Yeah, well, if they made the same comments, I would make the same comment to
Yeah.
them. It's just not productive to analyze your finances.
Understand that this,
Thank
you.
this stone has come, it's at the
It's our tax
devolution
money.
of a whole
Yeah,
lot
it's
of
our tax
stuff
money.
for the last
I
20
understand that,
years.
but I wouldn't
They
talk to
work
people
for
like that.
us. Not the other way around.
Yeah. If I were the board, I wouldn't talk to the public. If I were you, I wouldn't talk to the board like that.
Like, if we send them to you, can you watch all the videos?
I'd be happy to. Go ahead.
They do the racism comments and all, right? I mean, I saw the.
It's not actually up to them to judge
Yeah,
it.
but it's
Just
not
give
you,
us your-
that's why I said the question is not specific.
I'm so sorry, but we have a deadline, yoga.
Yeah, we have till 7:50, right?
Yeah.
Okay,
please,
so,
let's, you know.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I will send Kevin the sample of the training meeting that I do for other clients.
I'd like to see it too, if you
Yeah.
could CC me on
Oh,
that.
no, yeah, absolutely.
awesome.
I think I have your email.
I think
no
you
problem.
might, you
Yeah.
might, yeah.
So overall, your financial condition, if there were 2 pages from the audit that I would say are most important, and any other ones, is pages 11 and pages 13. Because page 11 kind of shows what your reserves are as the end of the year. And page 13 shows what your operating budget was and what your revenues were over your expenses. And again, your balance sheet again takes a picture of financial condition as of a specific moment in time. And then page 13, again, is our income statement that shows your income and expenses over the same period or over that year. So page 13, what you'll see, your total revenues for the year were $926,000. Your total expenses were $775,000. So that meant for the year, you guys had $151,000 in net income. Your reserves increased from just below that, $873,000, up to over $1 million as of the end of the year. And then page 11 shows our balance sheet. Again, it takes a picture as of that moment in time as to what you own and what you owe. You can see your total assets as of the end of the year were $1.2 million. Your liabilities were $189, and your fund balances end of the year were just over $1 million. And the ultimate litmus test that I give for special districts is I like to compare. And again, I'm not here. This is our first year doing the audit. I have no idea what the operating history has been, but I only can look at hard numbers and see what they tell me. Your total expenses, your operating budget for the year was $775,000. My advice to special districts is usually have at least 6 months worth of reserves in the bank. That way you can cover, payroll, because again, your property taxes only come twice per year in December and April. And as of now, you guys have really enough reserves in the bank to cover probably 16 months worth of expenses. So your reserves are fairly robust. Although again, I guess there's some subjectivity to that because I don't know what your ongoing capital needs are going to be. Okay, so the footnotes of the financial statements. I wish I could say there was anything really life-changing in there, but it just gives a greater level of detail about the numbers in the financial statements themselves. So any other questions? From the public either?
Steve has a question here.
Yeah,
Steve?
another question. If there aren't any more questions, I'll move to approve the audit because we have a legal deadline we have to meet to submit it to the state.
I was just curious, where is your office located?
It's in Sacramento.
Okay.
Do we have a second?
I'm not going to second the audit. I don't think.
I haven't had a chance to really go over it. I mean, I'm here, but I'm not very adept at finances. This is the lady who has the degree.
Okay.
But you can second.
I know, but we're not gonna get a vote.
That's true.
So,
Well, and then our deadline, legal deadline to submit the budget is,
We can actually, it's June, but
Okay.
part of that is just the SEO report, which,
Just do this week. I'll be working on that. Yeah.
so, and I have the filing for you in the office.
Yeah, just give me an email. It's fine.
Perfect.
so we still have time if we approve it at the next meeting?
Yes.
I think that the issue would be you will not be
Yeah,
here
he
at
will
the
not.
next meeting.
Right.
Yeah.
Yes.
So he's made the trip for this
Yes.
express purpose.
To answer your question.
So if you want to review the report, you guys are welcome to call me at all, anytime during the month. Next week I'm out of the office the whole week. To be honest, I'll be in the office all February. So if you want to look at it, you have more questions, you're welcome to call me. That stands for the public.
I was
too. If you
gonna
have other
say-
questions, feel free.
Um,
And I'll have the file in front of me, so you guys specific control questions, all like narratives and whatnot. So I'd be happy to answer more questions.
Do you have a soft copy also we can view from remotely or no?
It's on, this is all online.
No, not this one, the rest one. This one, I think I've gone through more of this.
So if you want to feel free to have a look and call me if you have other questions.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, guys.
Thank you for coming in.
Thanks, Kevin.
So we have 25 minutes to cover the rest of old business, and I'm wondering if we should just move to new business and talk about processing to fill the board vacancy.
Excuse me, how come we only have 25 minutes?
There's a yoga class apparently at 7:50
Yeah.
or 8 o'clock. Is it 8 o'clock?
Okay, well,
Okay,
can we just vote on these curtains? Because,
Okay,
because it's old business, we could take care of it like
All right.
that.
fine.
And I have the
But I
shade
didn't see
store.
any bids. There weren't any bids in the,
Yeah, this last month.
It was when the
Ashcroft
guy
here.
came back, the guy.
Ashcroft
Right,
was
but
here. And
right.
I've got the bids that I couldn't get last week, and it's a shade store. They have a lot of overhead and this and that. I would think
I
that
was hoping it was gonna be attached to our agenda, because there was just
it is on the agenda. It's
I-
called hall curtains.
talking about the bids. I was hoping the bids were gonna be attached.
Well, haven't you
The
looked
bids
at the
aren't here,
bids
but-
yet?
but-
Yeah,
they're
no,
on the
I did read the description, but there wasn't
We
any
looked at-
bids attached.
There were bids. I gave you a copy of it. I
It's
gave
not
you,
in this agenda. I
Oh
don't
my
see
God.
it here.
So there's the,
Because you went back with him to do
Yeah.
some more work.
the bid had to
No,
be
I
modified
And I
to,
thought
didn't
there was
do
gonna be
anything.
more than
Because we need to
one
modify the
bid.
bid.
hold the phone here. You guys were looking at the things and you were talking about them. You asked me if I had a preference. I said, no. He gave you a bid. It was all drawn out. I can go to my email and get the copy for you. And I thought, okay, they've had a chance to look at this and maybe we can vote on it and get these ugly drapes out of here that I've been complaining about for 2 years. Which, in fact, he did his office and didn't do the hall. I don't know why.
Okay, Kevin, thank you.
But he was supposed to send us a revised bid.
yeah,
Oh,
so
but
the
this
bid,
always, you know what? He puts things off and stone walls and he's gonna make a big deal out of everything. It's gonna take a long time. I gotta check the numbers. This is ridiculous. These drapes, we've got 2 bids here. Went over one of them. This man stayed here for 3 hours last. He went over everything. He was so gracious. And we could take his bid
But
and
he
we
said
could
he was
have
gonna
these,
send us another one.
pardon me?
He said at that meeting, he was gonna send
Oh,
us another one that
he
was
hasn't,
updated.
he didn't send it yet.
I haven't seen it.
Did you get it?
I have it,
Well, why isn't it here?
because I need the board to take a look at the recommendations so we
I-
can all be on the same page.
Can you get it?
Sure,
Well,
so,
just bring it.
And are we getting more than one bid? No?
Yeah, I got another bid here,
Somebody
But
but
else.
it's a
else has
lot
seen
more
it.
than the other one.
That wasn't attached.
yeah.
And here's all the information that goes with it. They are a very commercial, more than one store place, and I think they're overhead. I think it would be a lot expensive, and it's not, this is a general bid for 3, so you could see that it's a lot more.
Thank you, Kevin.
So normally, we would need all the bids ahead of time so we can review and properly vet the
Right.
drapes. In this case, yes, we had a vendor come in and we took a look at some of the product, but we still need to go over certain staff recommendations. So the previous bid did not include the doors behind you, so those would not be included. So staff made a recommendation to also include some roller shades on the back. There was also a recommendation to go from smart cords to a cordless to a smart cord
I
mechanism.
do not know what that means.
Right, so the smart cord, again, you would pull it up, but as you can see, I can barely reach the top, and I know some other people are gonna have a problem. The other issue is those doors over there, the shades come all the way to the ground, so if you have problems coming down all the way, you're not gonna be able to open that shade. So the recommendation from staff is to go to some kind of a corded model where people can, who may not be able to do those things I just mentioned, can also open these drapes.
Cords are dangerous around children, they get hung up.
Yeah,
So
so
there shouldn't be.
There's a smart cord that you can, so that's why I put that in here.
It's above a certain height.
In addition, the other bid was using a mixture of outside mounting and inside mounting. Maybe just for consistency, just use all outside mount. And of course, I just wanted to make the board aware that the fabric selected is a blackout one, which completely blocks out the light. So the current ones are light filtering. So for our yoga instructors, I believe they turn off the lights and they let the ambient light in. So if you use a blackout, then it would fundamentally change the ambiance of the room. I don't know if that's an issue for the board, but I just wanted to put the recommendations out there.
It's a good point. I mean, we don't need blackout curtains, 100% blackout for any reason. And that no rental I've heard of ever demanded that. And letting ambient light in will, of course, keep the waste of electricity down so that we don't use as much electricity for lighting, when we don't need it on a sunny day.
So we have a bid for this?
We do, but if we're going to get multiple bids, then the board has to settle on one
I
type
got
of
another
thing.
bid right here.
But the board needs to have all of it ahead of time. And
to look at.
And I really can't stress enough that it's very important that because we're on a deadline for the process to fill the board vacancy, that I understand the hall drapes are important, but the board vacancy is of the utmost
Okay,
importance.
let's move. So how about, do we all agree with the recommendations of the staff as far as like mounting and cords? Is that what he's gonna solicit for bids for?
You know what? I'm for what everybody else is for, as long as we get these windows and get rid of these horrible looking drapes. Whatever you guys decide is fine with me.
All right, so you'll come back with more information then.
Can I assume that that's the board's directive to accept the recommendations and find multiple bids that match these?
How many times do you think you'll need to come back?
Normally, I do this just once the first time, but this is the way that it's gone this time. So
We decided to go with subcommittee this time.
So can we get an agreement that Kevin gets direction according to staff recommendations?
What do you mean staff recommendations? We're gonna be
He
the
gave-
deciders.
In order to solicit for some bids,
Well, Sunny
he
was
has a
here.
certain criteria that he's
They seem
solicited.
reasonable.
Can we agree on those criteria?
I can.
we could even postpone it. It's not important,
Okay.
really.
That's true.
Yeah, I'd like to get to the
Yeah.
process to fill board vacancy.
Yeah.
Like you
Thank
said, it's a very
Thank you.
time-sensitive thing.
Please.
Thank you.
Yes.
All right.
I would also like to add that Sophia and myself have both found the special election costs. So thank you for looking into it as well. The cost for the special election.
Hold on a second. How many of you, I just want a couple people to guess, how much do you think it
Oh,
is? It's just, this is gonna,
150,000.
you are good. You are
There's a
good.
little bit of-
How did you know?
It was mentioned before.
Elementary schools have done it before.
What did you say?
150.
150.
$75 a vote, 2,000 votes, it's 100.
We've always been able to appoint somebody
Right.
really fast, but this time, oh no, we're not doing it.
Actually, we've never
She's
been able to do it
president.
fast.
She's still president for, I don't know how long.
So it's
because she won't-
150,000 for
Yeah.
Yeah,
setting up the
150,000,
candidacy.
52,000.
Doing the
152,000.
$75 per person.
Yeah, $75 a vote, that's 2,000 some odd votes.
This is for the one column. This is the 1/8 size.
How long do you think it will take
So-
to appoint somebody?
So the legal requirements.
Oh, I see what you
for
mean, for the
appointment-
notice.
Right.
Okay. So,
The legal
Yeah.
requirements for appointment are that we need to post for at least 15 days in
Okay,
3
that's
different places, a legal notice. So we need to talk to the lawyer to make sure we've got it legally worded correctly. If we can post that by next week and have at least 15 days till the next meeting where we can meet with all the people who respond.
Can I ask
At the
a
same
question?
time, can I finish first? I'm gonna be quick because we don't have much time. That would give us the 2 weeks we need at least. I prefer more like 15 days to make sure we exceed 2 weeks. During that time, we can hopefully get the Rancho newsletter, first one out, to tell everybody who's on the mailing list, you're all qualified. To me, and let them know there's an election so that everybody who's interested will know about it, because that's important. Now, to me, there's two main qualifications for being on the board. One is the ability to listen to other people, and the other one is showing up for meetings. Everybody in this room has already satisfied the latter criteria. You've shown up for a meeting. So I'm encouraging you all to apply for the board. Using
don't you also have
using
to
the
be a
legal
resident?
requirements that we
You also
have
have
I
to
think you're
agree,
forgetting something.
using the legal requirements that we have to meet at this meeting so that we can do this. And with any luck, I'm hoping by the March meeting, we will have a fifth board member.
Okay, the
Don't you
seat
have
has
to be a
been,
resident too?
Yeah, I think you forgot to
Yeah,
mention
you have to
that.
be a voter in the district.
Voter in the district.
So I
This-
want to add on to that.
Policy
Sorry,
says
Sandy.
resident.
So I actually looked into this. So if you were actually in the board before 2001, you do not have to be a resident. You only have to be a property owner. So anyone who was like in the 90s. So for example, you live in Campbell, right? And you live on Bonnie Drive. So
No, I live on Johnson Avenue.
you
That's my
take,
legal residence.
It's not according to the
No,
county
it isn't.
tax.
according to
It
the,
is according to them too.
actually, no, you take the
Oh,
property
there's
tax
a-
exemption on Bonnie Drive, which means that is your.
I didn't hear what you said. I'm sorry. I didn't talk.
So anyway, yeah, let's just get back to this. But I just
Yeah.
want to say,
She's got a point.
so.
Can I
go
say-
ahead.
I have to be a resident, a voting
Voter in the district.
A
resident.
voting resident.
I
Yeah.
can't just be a property owner.
No, a voting resident. You
That
don't
was
have to
kind
be
of
a property
grandfathered
owner,
in.
in fact.
All right, go ahead.
So
We've had people on the board who weren't property owners, who were renters.
how come we never did this before?
We did it before.
No, we didn't.
Can we
Look,
just continue
no,
till we
I
move forward?
Don't
Let's
try to
move
shut me
forward.
up. Haley, that's your stock
We did
and
it
trade.
when
Okay,
Jordan
No,
left.
we didn't.
Okay.
No, we
We did it
didn't.
when Jordan left.
So
That's the legal
basically, I
requirement.
just wanted to put this out here. So you actually have to make it a public notice about it. So for one column, this is in the Cupertino Courier. It is $1,932. And if you're actually going to do something larger, and I can't,
it's 5,000.
it's $5,796 if you actually want a big advertisement.
Yeah, we can do smaller. This is just the quote without seeing what
And
we
how
have.
much does each candidate have to pay?
Oh, no, this is the notice. we have.
Yeah, this is a notice. They have to do a public notice,
Yeah.
and the public notice we're going to do in the Cupertino Courier.
And we can do it in other places too.
No, I was just wondering, another item.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
The next item.
the recommendation from staff is to not do the special election due to the cost, and also it wouldn't be very expedient. It would take several months
Right.
to do and set up and whatnot. So I
So what
think
do you recommend?
doing an appointment process, I think that any candidate that the board can agree on would add a lot of value, and we could do that relatively quickly within the next, well, it has to be within a month, otherwise the county will appoint someone for us, and that's
With
if
the same
nobody's-
criteria?
That would be good.
Same criteria.
Well, actually, the county supervisor can appoint somebody from their own criteria. They don't have to even appoint a resident from our district. Other special districts get people appointed that don't even reside in their districts.
Like
Like
you
me.
and Hilly.
I
Like you and Hilly.
And so, I've seen other special districts languish because they have people on the board who never show up for meetings. So that's why I said one of the most important things is showing up and two, meeting all the legal qualifications, which Sophie has just, pointed out what they are now. And normally in the past, when we had a vacancy, we asked people to apply with a written essay, so to speak, and our staffs come up with a good format for that. So we could post, after we post this next week legally, people can start sending in their responses. And then when we have the public meeting, my thought, and I'll propose, but we don't have to decide tonight, is that we can interview everybody who's interested in the seat. And then the board can go down all the lists of names, perhaps, and then vote on each one. And the top 3 or 4, whoever gets at least 2 votes, and we go back and make it shorter and work our way through them. Because the fact that you are here tonight shows your commitment to me and to the rest of the board that you care. And that's an important thing for a board member, is you have to care.
By the
Steve,
way,
for
in
the
the
two-
policy, it said that you were supposed to post this within, I forget, I didn't bring that.
3 different places within the
No.
district too.
You're supposed to post it, within, I think within a week or 2 weeks
Oh,
from the
He knows
resignation.
more about the
Yes.
The
deadline.
vacancy has been since the end of November,
That's why I'm raising it.
Right.
and it was,
And
and
we
it
got a
was
vacancy at the last
withheld.
meeting.
It was withheld.
So the,
No,
Yes, it was.
nobody told me about it until last meeting.
That's why,
It
because
was
he
introduced to
withheld
me.
it. Ask Jordan.
I'm
Meldridge,
just
he's
pointing
right up
out,
there.
I'm good on
Why?
rules. Why wasn't that posted?
Oh, no. The rule is that you have to let the registrar of voters know within 10 days. The board has to choose their candidate before the 60 days is up.
Okay.
So we got 60
And the
days
notice
from
has
her
to be posted
resignation.
for 15 days, but not within 15 days of
Okay.
the resignation.
Right.
Thank you.
May I
I-
ask a question? I see that the staff is offering recommendations about the election process. Structurally, I thought the board decides about these issues. It's already pre-existing policy. Why, how does it work that the staff are telling the board how the election process should work?
Yeah, I actually,
Where do the recommendations fit structurally?
I mean, I get so many emails, but I don't think I actually got an email about getting recommendations on what that would be. So yeah, I'd like to know that too, why it was staff.
So as part of the agenda, if you look in many public meetings, not just Rancho Rinconada, take a look at the city of Cupertino, for example. What you'll see in the agenda is a brief description of the agenda item, as well as a staff recommendation. This is a fairly normal thing. It's not the staff telling the board what to do. It's what the staff has looked into and feels is the best. The board is free to do whatever and amend this. That's totally fine. This is simply from the staff perspective. That's all.
But we wouldn't have to do that today, would we?
Actually,
A really
in order
good
to meet the
idea.
deadline, we should do
Yeah.
that today. We should agree on at least on very minimum, we have to agree on is that we're going to appoint a board member based on our voting, not go to election. If we can agree on that first. And
Right,
second, then the process is we need to post on it. We have to figure out what date to post,
right.
what
in
day to have
in
the meeting,
Okay,
what day to close the inputs for board members. And then I'd say about a week later.
for
let's
board
have a
member
meeting.
candidates.
Yes.
Then have,
Okay.
about a week after that closure date would be a good time to have the meeting, because it'll give us all a week to email the persons who apply and ask any questions that they didn't answer in their statement.
Then how long does this person sit? If they're appointed,
They will
is
be
it
here till
different?
the next
The next
election in 2
election.
years,
To
so
the
it's
next
about
election.
22 months right now.
Thank you.
Because it's November of last year was the beginning of the term,
Okay.
excuse me, 2 years from last November.
So they don't get grandfathered in and they don't get treated like an incumbent?
No, they don't, not from my knowledge.
So-
Yeah.
Melanie?
So who from the county would appoint the person and wouldn't they have to look into who they want?
Our supervisor
Board of Supervisors.
would,
County Board
would
of
make the
Supervisors.
recommendation to the entire board. That's how I got it.
And
Well,
how
they
would
don't
get-
make a
how would they get the
recommendation, they
recommendation?
appoint.
They get their recommendation usually from our board to fill vacancies,
Oh.
and then they rubber stamp it,
Okay.
and that's the fastest way.
If we make a decision.
If we make a decision, I think we can. I think we've got a
Don't
lot of
make
good
a
candidates
decision, then.
inside this room and outside this room. I think there's gotta be somebody who, like I say, meets my minimum criteria, somebody who's willing to listen and is a resident.
Are there other previous stated criteria, or is it just your criteria what you just said?
I'm just, we all have different criteria because we're all different individual. I
But
don't know what
shouldn't
Sophie's
everybody
looking
have a
for. I
different
don't know what
criteria?
Sandra's looking for.
There
I don't know
should
what
be-
she's looking for.
There should be a set criteria,
That's
not
what I'm
what
asking.
There is,
everybody
well,
wants.
that's what we were discussing.
Right.
It's the fact you
Well,
have
you
to
said
be
you
a
have to be a
voter.
voter
You have to be a voter
in the state.
in the district
In the district. You have to be a resident of the district.
and a resident, but you don't have to be a homeowner.
I'm aware that, for example, several times in the past, people have been appointed, not necessarily run for elections.
Right.
Has this interview process and the process you described, hasn't been followed in the past as
Yes.
well? Or is it brand new?
No, it's not brand new. This is the same process I can recall doing. It's been many years. It's been at least, other than for Jordan, it's been over 10 years since we've had to appoint somebody to fill a vacancy.
I think Jordan, didn't he leave in
He
2013?
got elected, he was elected.
We got
Right.
Pat
He
back,
filed for election.
Okay, that's
And
right.
we
So,
forgot to file.
and there was no process. You brought Pat back, and that was it.
And no,
There was no you show me where you advertised that seat. I would like to see that.
That's what I
If I
understand.
can-
Show me what
I
the
can
process.
yeah, we only have 5
We
minutes.
got
Yeah,
5
5
minutes, so
minutes.
let's
The
get this.
statement, the interview. did
Last
not
call.
always happen.
Yeah.
Do you wanna-
Would any member of the board like to add anything to this or make a motion potentially to
To the qualification statement?
Yes, yeah, maybe like a word limit or something, so it's not too,
Well, if we can think of anything else, any other questions we want to ask all of our possible board members, we could forward them to you to add to the brochure that we post.
I'd like to get some community input now
That'd be good.
about, like just a statement. Would a limit of say like 1,000 words be okay, or is that too small?
Probably too many.
Okay,
500.
You don't wanna read them.
500?
One page,
Probably good.
What,
one
one
page.
page.
1 page?
That's usually around
No
300.
resume should be
It's usually
longer.
about 300.
No longer than 1 page.
Like in a letter of
Double spaced or
intent.
triple?
The
Better
margins,
clarify.
yeah.
At least
12
nine,
fonts,
at least 9-point type, please.
12. Times
No,
zero is
seriously, if you can't make an elevator pitch in one page.
Yeah, you can't, it's
you
too
shouldn't be on
long.
the board.
Can you
No.
have part of it be, what do they see as their role? How do they see themselves serving the community?
I,
What
Oh,
do they think the
That's a
main
good
role of this?
point. And another part
Actually-
that I didn't bring up was the fact that the other qualification you have to think about internally yourself is that to do your job correctly and fully as a board member, you have to be willing to commit anywhere between 5 and 20 hours minimum every month to being a board member. Because you have agendas to review, you have checks to sign,
$2,000.
you have to learn how to, there is training, whether you choose to use it or go to it or not, that's very helpful because it's a complex job being a board member of a public board. That's all, that's true. So I wanted to make sure to think about that. It isn't just that you show up for the board meeting. That's important. And doing all the prep beforehand. It's the fact that you may have to go out and do some legwork. Like Sophie's been doing a lot of that since she was elected. She's been doing a lot of legwork, I understand, sending off emails and finding out facts and educating herself in a lot of ways. And that's good. I'm glad to see that. And any board member I would expect to do that, I hope. I've got hundreds of hours in myself, but it's over many years. Anyway.
I think from public comments, it's also evident that people have also been researching on their own. They brought facts here to the table about policy, about numbers, about the history of this area, etc. I think all that also should be taken into account. I think we all understand. It's not an impossible job. You don't need to go to NAPA to be trained. We can be trained here. Happy to get the training. It's necessary.
We're really running out of time,
Yeah.
so could we have a motion?
yeah,
I
I wanted
have
to
a
add
motion.
something.
Anybody want to
One of the
second?
things that I want to add is I'd like to know what the 3 top priorities are for the candidate. And also, I'd like to know too,
We can add to this. We don't need to finish this for the motion tonight, but we do need a motion tonight so that we can proceed and have a board member by March.
Well, it could be approved and then maybe delegated
Amended
to
or
a committee,
Yeah, that's true.
if that's what the board wants to do.
okay,
As long as the criteria, as long as the decision to appoint and then delegate the final, the final
Notice.
notice, would
Yeah.
be delegated to the committee.
so we'd have to do a committee today.
Yes, ad hoc committee, and we'd have to get on it real fast.
Okay, so,
And I would think that the two of you would be good for the committee. You're the newest member and he knows half of what needs to be done. The lawyer can tell you guys the other half.
do you want to be on the committee, Sandy?
No, because I've already got the curtain thing going.
Okay, fine. If someone else wants to, I'll be part of the committee.
Can the public be on the committee?
I don't know the rules, we can
Okay, so we
try.
have a committee,
Okay.
have a committee.
I'll be on it too if you want, but
I
I
wanna
don't
be
see
on
why
it.
you need me. Because I don't think we're gonna have to have many meetings.
It's kind of a time bait. It's a
Yeah,
little
So,
bit of a
can
time break.
I understand the motion to
The
be,
motion
be
was to
appointed.
go through the notification next week.
Let's ask the.
Talk to the lawyer to find out what we have to put in the paper and in the 4 other places we have to put it. With the theory that 2 weeks later, at least 2 weeks later, we can close that. And about a week later than that, try and have a public meeting, not on a yoga night. so that we can meet all the candidates, and then we'll have another week to decide who to vote, who.
So I'd like to be on the committee if you're gonna allow the public, since you don't have a rule for it, I assume that it's open for discussion and you can,
Okay.
you know.
So it would be.
I am not running, by the way, so
Right.
I'm a good
Okay.
independent,
Yes. Okay.
independent, because I can't
Thank
run.
you for
Thank you
your
volunteering.
Sure, thank you.
volunteering. Thank you.
Okay, perfect. I don't necessarily need to serve, but I can provide feedback. if it's one of-
That's fine. So it would just be, it would be a committee of
But we
one.
need to pass the motion.
Oh, yeah. Sorry. I meant a board committee.
So I made the motion, who's the second?
Second, we need a second.
I'll second that amendment.
Now, we
Second
need
that
at least three
emotion.
people to agree we're gonna do this.
Okay, so I,
Right.
I
I vote.
understand what you need to do.
Yes.
Okay, I'm calling the question, all in favor of moving forward on the, appointment policy.
For the vacancy, correct? Appointment. Okay. All right. Got it.
That's all in. One very, very last thing is that this will be much more effective if we can get that newsletter out.
Yes.
So if we can get approval for the,
I move to approve the $700 that you're gonna need to get that out so that we can put that in the mailer, the first mailer.
Right,
Even
in
if we don't get much
February.
else in there,
Yeah.
we need at least that in there.
Okay.
okay.
Yeah. I second it.
And I'll, you could come up with a draft and she and I can approve it. How's that?
Okay, so
On
it
the
means you-
newsletter,
So I move that too.
Sorry.
okay, thank you.
We all approve. Now we have to move to adjourn.
Okay,
All right.
And it's 7:52.
7:52, adjourn. Okay, awesome. Thank you so much, you guys.
Is it your
Yeah,
copy? That's yours, right?
Yeah, this is mine. Thank
All
you.
right. Okay.
We gotta break down.
Okay.
real
All
fast.
right.
If you wanna hang around just a sec, we can chat.
I kind of can. My dog is in.
No worries, no worries.
We'll over email.
Yes.
Or I'll text you.
Part of the
Yes,
candidacy
sounds good.
that, questions about awareness of special districts.
By the skin of our teeth, for real. Okay.
That's something we can do during the
Thank
interview.
you. Perfect. This is the other person. I will contact them and get the whole proposal. It'll be on the agenda.